Hey guys, it's Marlene. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Freewell magnetic filter set, which I will be using on my Lumix cameras. Now this video is not sponsored. Freewell gave me this set to test out. And as you know, I've been using the red video button a lot lately to film birds in flight and other things with my Lumix cameras. So maybe this will start the process of me doing more cinematic filming. So why would you need a neutral density filter? Well, for photography, it is a way of blocking some light so that you can slow down your shutter speed. You can take away some of that light by using a neutral density filter. And what that does is it blocks light without adding any color, neutral density. Now, when would you use this? Well, here's an example, which is a bit of a cliche, but let's say you're shooting a landscape and it has a waterfall in it, and you want to blur the water coming down the waterfall. But you want to keep, of course, the rest of the scene sharp. So you don't maybe even need that much motion in the waterfall, maybe even like 1/8 of a second to show some blur. To get that blur, use a neutral density filter and it will block some light and you'll have show motion in the waterfall with blur and the rest of your scene will be as normal. In filmmaking or video making, typically your shutter speed is slow, especially if things are moving in your frame. If I'm doing this in the frame, you want a slower shutter speed so that you're not overwhelmed with like jitters, because that's a bit hard on your brain. So typically how it works is your shutter speed is twice the frame rate. So if I'm shooting at 30 frames per second, I want a shutter speed around 1/60th of a second. If I'm shooting at 60 frames per second, I want a shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. Now that's photography talk. That's how photographers are used to talking about shutter speed. So videographers and cinematographers don't use shutter speed. They use the term shutter angle. And they use a shutter angle of 180 degrees. Now, if you have a Lumix camera, especially a Lumix camera that is video-centric, which many of them are, you can change your video settings from shutter speed to shutter angle. So you would always want that shutter angle to be at 180 degrees. Now, if you're 180 degrees and you're say at your lowest ISO and you've still got too much light, then you would put a neutral density filter over your lens to cut some of that light so that you could shoot with shallow depth of field. So you're adding light with your aperture and you're adding light because you have a slow shutter speed and you can't take any more light away because you're already at your lowest ISO. So that's when you're going to pop in a neutral density filter to block some light so that you can use a slower shutter speed and a shutter angle or shutter angle of 180 degrees. I hope that makes sense. So that's the reason you would use neutral density filters. If you have a Lumix camera, you can change how you view the shutter angle or shutter speed. So all you have to do is go into the video menus and page 2 on image quality, SS gain operation. So right now I have it on angle ISO and I can change it to seconds ISO. And then when you go back, you can see here that it's displayed as shutter speed, not shutter angle. So again, just change it to angle and it displays as shutter angle. 2,000th of a second, red button video. Manual video. If your subject isn't moving that much, you could actually shoot at a higher shutter speed and it's not going to ruin your video. You're never going to break your camera. Now, if you have several lenses, chances are they have different diameters as well. So you may need to pick up a couple of step-up rings. So in my case, I have the 77mm filter set, and I have a 67mm and a 72mm step-up ring, so I can fit probably 5 or 6 of the lenses that I have. So don't forget about the step-up rings. What about the other filters in the kit? Circular polarizer and the UV filter. Here's a circular polarizer, and you can see that there's a little reflection on the top of these wooden carvings, and as I'm rotating, you can see that it cuts the reflection. Okay, so there's a live view. It's cutting the reflection right off. So here we have a big reflection on the water, and as we rotate it, you can see that it completely changes. Now in this case, I want you to watch the window, but I also want you to watch the box of matches. Look at the red bird and look how it also changes because it's at a different angle than the window. So right now it has reflection and the window doesn't. And here the window has reflection, but the box of matches doesn't. And it's because they're at 90 degrees to themselves, and polarizing works on the angle of 90 degrees from the light source, which is typically the sun. If you're shooting landscapes with polarizer filters, you can affect how the sky looks, especially with clouds, and you can add or take away contrast in the sky. Now another thing you can do is stack these filters. Now the sun just popped out, thankfully, so I put the CPL on because I wanted to show you the difference that it makes with clouds and blue skies and how it increases the contrast. But then it got too bright to shoot video, so I can stack these together, put them back on the camera, and, sorry, there's mosquitoes here, and you can spin your CPL. I like to put the CPL at the end, but it doesn't really matter, whatever works for you. Now I didn't do any formal tests on the UV filter that comes with the Freewell kit. However, I did these quick tests while I was on a hike, and you can see here that it's hard to see the difference. Now, UV filters are intended to block UV light, and that is more prominent at higher elevations. Now, I did a non-scientific but very accurate test to see if these filters are neutral. I used my X-Rite Color Checker Passport. I did a custom white balance with the Lumix S9. And I had a constant light source. And here are my results. I've used the digital color meter of my computer, and I've sampled the same area on the white balance card for each of the filters that I've used. So you can see here that the RGB values are 172. So it is neutral there on the gray card. And next up, we have the -3 ND8, and you can see that it is slightly blue. So red, green are the same. Blue is 3 points higher. Next up, we have the -6, and it is a little cooler as well. The red and green are a bit lower, and the blue is 176. Next up is the circular polarizer, and you can see right away that it is warm, and you can tell by the numbers that the blue is lower than the red and green, and that gives us a bit of a warm cast. Now, of course, that could change depending on how you rotate it. So I haven't tested it at different rotational settings, but I expect it may vary a bit there as well. Now, these tests are not crazy different. There's not a huge color cast. And if you shoot with auto white balance, which I often do, you probably will never notice such a slight change. If you're switching filters between takes and you're using custom white balance, I suggest you do a custom white balance for every shot if color is critical. Otherwise, bear that in mind and you'll have to do color corrections after the fact. I was unable to test the 1000 ND because I didn't have enough light. So I'd have to go outside with like an f1.8 lens to test that one. And that's probably a filter that I wouldn't use very much. Now, the only thing I'm not fond of with this filter set is that I can't use my lens hood. And I'm a huge fan of lens hoods. The problem is there's not enough space to put the filters inside the lens hood. especially if you're using the step-up filters. So obviously the step-up filters are wider diameter than your original lens, so your lens hood definitely won't fit. Now, you might be able to find third-party lens hoods, so look out for those if that is a problem for you. The good thing, though, is that they do give you a lens cap, which fits on the stack of filters that you put together. So, you know, you won't be missing your lens cap. In fact, I love this lens cap. And here's a hint to Lumix. Please make a lens cap magnetic. Ooh, wouldn't that be sweet? I love it. I might just even leave the step-up rings on my lenses just because of the lens cap. There you go. So that's my only, it's not even really a complaint. It's just how it is. It's a design thing, and your lens hoods will not fit. As far as what filters I would use, I don't think I would have much call for the 1000 ND, the -10 stops. That's a lot, even with an f1.8 lens. I'm not sure, unless it was a super bright day, but I'd have to test that out. So far, I've used the -3 and the -6 in the bright sun, and probably -3 on a regular overcast day and -6 on a regular sunny day, midday. One thing I would remark on is that these magnets are very, very tight. They're really snug fitting. So you can probably tell from some of my video clips that it makes some noise when you're spinning them. But you wouldn't typically be shooting a live video and spinning the circular polarizer, just saying. So, but once you do get it into position, it's not going to move on you. It's not going to loosen up like some systems where you just basically accidentally knock it, like with your hand or something, or put it in your camera bag. This is not going to move when you stick it in and out of your camera bag. One thing I do recommend, however, is to use a camera with a viewfinder. I found that the S9, though great for travel, etc., I really missed the viewfinder because, especially with the circular polarizer, you really need to see the details of what's going on if you're trying to eliminate reflections. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and seeing a bit of my adventure in the very north part of Canada. And I have to say that I'm really pleased that Freewell sent me this filter set. I think they're awesome. I think the design is great. It's so practical. And if you're looking for a filter set, I highly recommend Freewell.
Walk back this way a little bit. Got it. Very nice. Woo!
If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can watch this one here. Thanks for watching.